people are what they do. No, the people are better than what they do. And in fact, we can reform who you are and go beyond what you do. And if you are doing bad today, tomorrow you can do much better. Why? Because you are better in what you do with yourself. And it started with Adam and Hawa. Both of them said, رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. We have been unjust with our own part of a movement of thought, a school of thought, saying something which is very simple. There is no contradiction between our being Muslims and Americans or Westerners. We have principles and we understand something. We need the knowledge to remain Muslims, and we need action and behavior to be able to spread around the right understanding of our principles based on the values that I mentioned before. So this is where, for example, in all the work that I'm doing now is at Oxford University, working at the highest level of what academia is in Oxford, but also dealing within the Islamic tradition and trying to push the scholars and to push the students to come with a deeper ethical values and how we are going to translate this into the ground, so the applied ethics. So now, for example, we are starting to train people and to have 50 people, 100 students to come, and we are going to work on some of the Islamic notions that are essential. Last year we talked about ijtihad. This year we are going to talk about the notion of maqasid, and to train the people to do what? In fact, to spread an understanding that is helping the people to be equipped and to respond to the challenges of their time. And I come here in Boston and I meet with the brothers and the sisters, and what I get, it's exactly the same philosophy. So we decided, and this is something that we will start straight away to work together. So what I want is the center that we have in Oxford, in Qatar, with the Center for Tashri' al-Islami wal-Akhlaq, is to work together and to have a school of thought now. In a school of thought, we need to have scholars, we need to have thinkers, we need to have ulama, we need to have leaders that are able to be involved in this. Brothers and sisters. So we need women and men to be involved in this and to be able to get the deep understanding. But for this, you have to be trained, you have to be educated, and you have to understand the very essence of education as the way we understand it in the Islamic tradition. So let me just start with this. And as you know, by the way, that I have some of you who are following the work on Facebook, on Twitter, on the website. We have lots of people following. Now it's not only to follow, because I'm used to these brothers who are coming, I'm following you. Okay, that's fine, thank you. If you can just come with me a bit more. Like the people who are very happy because you are struggling in their name, say, go ahead my brother, we are behind you, okay? Come just on the front, just be with us, do the job. Stop waiting and thinking by proxy and letting some of the leaders do the job and you are not there. Now we need to have brothers and sisters being involved. And you, for example, coming and sitting and listening to lectures, what is very important is what you do out of this. Why are you here this evening? You're just here because you have one of your brothers coming to give you a lecture and you are going to fly for 1 hour? Or are you going to get the understanding that anything that you get, and this is what the Prophet, peace be upon him, told us, if you listen to a hadith, what is important is the way you are going to translate this into the reality. Hadith is not only words to be repeated, it's teaching to be implemented. This is why you are here for the lectures, just not only to listen and say, oh, it was a very good lecture. And relative and the deepest and the more difficult questions of our time is what we call fragmentation of knowledge. Fragmentation of knowledge means, for example, that you go to the school, of course you have the average common knowledge that you get in primary and secondary school, and at one point you are asked to be specialized in one field. and you are specialized in one field, so you can be a computer scientist, you can be a medical doctor, you can be in anything which is technical, and you see that in being an expert on one field, you don't connect the knowledge with other knowledges. This fragmentation of knowledge is based on one thing: be very bright, be very deep in this knowledge, but there is something which is missing. Is in order to get the very essence of knowledge, you need to get the objective. Why are you trying to know what you are learning? Why? What is the point here? What we have in our university is we try to get the knowledge for the sake of knowledge itself, to be an expert on this, but the overall goal of knowledge in itself could be completely lost. In our universities now, in the West today, the fragmentation of knowledge is a reality. We don't have people coming together and being able to say, okay, from this perspective and this perspective, how are we going to bridge the divide? That's what we call also in education and in knowledge deconstruction, to deconstruct the whole thing. The deconstructivist reality is not helping us to get the vision of the comprehensive dimension. In Islam, if you look at what we have now, we have also scholars who are more and more specialized in some of the fields. So you have the fuqaha, that they are dealing with the legal, and you have some others who are dealing with the spiritual, and you have people, and at the end you can see that some of the scholars, when they deal with the fiqh, they deal with the rules, and they are not always dealing with other dimension of knowledge. There is also in Islam a fragmentation of knowledge. What we need now is, how do we reconcile the whole dimension? How are we going to do this? So this reality for us, there is something that we have to do as Muslims. And this is why when you have an institution, for example, the Boston Seminary, for example, instead of just competing by saying these are all the disciplines that we are going to get in order to be a alim, masa'ib or problems, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, we belong to him and to him we shall return, means this life has a meaning. What we are trying to get is knowledge to be faithful to him and knowledge to be able to go back to him. This is what we are trying to do. At the end of the day, everything which has to do with knowledge is connected to the way we are going to respond to his call. Why? Because he's telling us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, he's calling us. We have to respond. And one of the ways to which we are going to respond is iqra. You have to read, you have to get the knowledge. In fact, what we are trying to get is this relationship to Allah. So the source is him. But he's telling us, and he gave us something which is essential. He's going to send us, وَهُوَ الرَّحْمَنِ, the book. Ar-Rahman allama al-Quran. He taught us the Quran. And he's telling us one thing: I gave you what is necessary for you to come back to me, to be equipped. What is the first thing that he gave us? To come back to him. There is no text, there is no revelation, there is no risala, there is no message if there is not a mind to be able to understand what is sent. No message if there is no mind to get the meaning of the knowledge. So we have to care about our mind, our rationality. Anybody who today is telling us, in order to be a good Muslim, just open your heart, you don't get it. In Islam, you open your heart in order to have some light in your head, in your mind. You need both, heart and mind. No faith without rationality, and no rationality without the nur that you need to have in your heart. As a Muslim, When we speak about education, what we are saying here is that Allah gave us the means to be able to get what is coming from the source. The message needs the minds. So we need to care about our minds. But there is also something which is very important. You are not going to get the very meaning of the text if your heart is not open. This is why some of the scholars, when they read the Quran, they start with the ablution. Al-wudu, because the wudu is opening your heart, opening your spirituality. And Ahl al-Tasawwuf are saying, when you read the Quran, there are things that are accessible to your mind and things that are accessible to your heart. Well, because what we have in the Quran is the way we are describing the people who are rejecting Allah. لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. They have hearts and they don't understand with their heart. So education is about two things. It's with your mind and with your heart. The best teacher is not the one who knows how to talk to your mind. Is the one who knows how to talk to your mind and your heart. To the point that you remember that sometimes you get a deeper knowledge of one discipline because you like the teacher. Some of you were very bad in mathematics one year and the following year much better because I like the teacher. The teacher is good. So your heart open your mind. And this is the spiritual message. So with the book it's exactly the same. You won't never get the deep understanding of the Quran only with your mind. You need the heart. And it's not only the physical dimension of you that is looking at the world. So what is becoming blind is your heart, not your eyes. It's exactly the same with your mind. So these are the means of our education, the mind, the heart, but not only this, the book is coming, and then with this knowledge, with the knowledge that we are going to get, is everything that is around us, which is the sources and the means of knowledge. So the faculties that we have, our reason, our heart, and then the world around us, all these disciplines are means to get more knowledge. So in Islam, knowledge is not only religious knowledge, or to put it more clearly, religious knowledge is about everything. Everything. To be connected to God, the way you are going to get a better understanding of your body, a better understanding of the world, a better understanding of your society. All this is part min al-ilm. Al-ilm, everything. Everything. To the point that when the Quran was revealed, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق, read in the name of God, of your Lord who created, is read the book and read the world. Not only this, read the book, read the world, read the human beings. You have to read what is coming from your society. So as Muslims, and when we are now in the United States of America and you rely on the book, be careful. Don't think that you are going to protect Islam and to protect yourself as Muslims only by coming back to the book. You need to get the knowledge of the book, the knowledge of the world, and the knowledge of the people. A good Muslim in America knows the Americans. A good Muslim in the United States of America knows the history of the country. Why? Because out of this history you read the people. You read the people. When some African American Muslims are telling you, you know what, you the migrants, you don't get what is happening in this country. In one way they are right. If you don't know the historical relationship between black people and white people in this society and the psyche that was produced out of history, you come and you say, I'm coming to teach you what the principles are, but you are teaching what the principles are, but you don't know the minds that are listening to you. A teacher not only knows what he's teaching, but he knows the minds that are receiving the teaching. If not, I'm talking to you in English and I just don't get that you speak Spanish. Because culture is language. And culture is power. I agree. You get this? So this is what the way we have to understand education from our source is. The source is Allah. And He gave us the means. And the means is your mind, your heart, and everything around you. Part of it is the knowledge of the society. This is part of the means that you get. In order to be faithful to the text, know to whom the text was sent. And if you want to know how you are going to be faithful to the text, you need to understand the way the people are listening to you when you talk about the text. If not, you are speaking another language. But that's not enough. Education is to know the source, is to know the means, and you know the goals. Why are you trying to educate yourself? What is the final goal? The final goal is a very simple thing. Is what you come to Surah Al-Fajr and you have it in a very simple thing, which is يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. راضية مرضية, satisfied and getting the satisfaction of God and being satisfied. So, ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية is رضا الله. Allah is trying to get. There is one thing which is important. Everything that you get as knowledge should and must be a way for you to reform yourself. So the final goal of education is tell me in what you learn, in which way what you learn is helping you to transform yourself, to make you a better human being. العلم النافع, it's what do you get and how this knowledge is going to make you a better human being. This lecture is useless if at the end of this lecture you are not trying to be better in one way or in another. A lecture is useful only if you are getting the substance and helping you to be a better human being at the end and helping you to transform yourself. One of the ultimate goals of education at the personal level is to change yourself. The second thing which is important, the ilm al-nafi', is wherever you are, this knowledge should help you to change the environment and to make it a better space. الذين إن مكناهم في الأرض أقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وأمروا بالمعروف ونهوا عن المنكر. Wherever you go, you settle in this country, you pray, you give the zakat, and you resist, you promote what is right, and you resist what is bad. Wherever you are, your knowledge should be a positive, constructive knowledge to change your environment for the better. So if today you are living in Boston, and in your neighborhood, for example here around this center, the people don't feel that your presence is positive because you are serving the people, there is something wrong in your presence. If we settle somewhere, the people around us should not only identify us as Muslims by our differences, but as Muslims by our contribution. So, the white supremacists in this country, or the racists in this country, or the populists, what are you trying to get with yourself, and what are you trying to get with the people around you? Why are you going through a tarbiyah? In fact, a tarbiyah is all based about a word which is a noble word, that was distorted by so many Muslims and by so many media coverage is the jihad. Jihad al-nafs, jihad al-ilm, jihad al-hub, jihad al-adl. All this resistance that we have is in fact what we have to do wherever. It's to educate ourselves. Is a jihad, it's a noble jihad, to change ourselves, to change the society, to get one thing which is important. We should be wherever we are, and we are educating ourselves to be agent of peace. Agent of peace, salamatin nafs. What I'm trying to do with my education is to be at peace with myself. What I'm trying to do is to be at peace with my neighbor, is to be at peace with the people around me. This is the very essence of education. But get me right. All what I'm saying here, you cannot get it if you don't have this overall understanding of what Islam is all about. Islam is not a religion that you have to defend. Islam is a religion that you have to practice. Islam is not a message that you have to always justify. No, Islam is the message that you have to embody, to translate into the reality. And everything that we are talking about now, it's about education is a translation. Education is the very translation of the message in our life. Now when we say this, and when we trying to speak about this, what is important in our understanding of knowledge is a very deep conception of human being. And we have to come to this. Be careful. I keep on repeating this. That some of you, they want to be and they want to show to the American fellow citizens that they are American citizens as well. Be careful. You have to celebrate the American citizenship. But there is one thing that you cannot do. You can't, with your consciousness, with your understanding of Islam, you can't promote your American citizenship at the price of your humanity. What do I mean by this? If you want to bring something to this country, you have to celebrate the fact that you are Americans. But you have to make it clear that never in the name of something which is called America First, you are going to accept that we treat some human beings with no dignity. And this, I have been promoting citizenship for years in Europe, in the States. And you know what I saw? I saw some of my brothers and sisters, Muslims, in the name of their citizenship, because they wanted to show that they are Europeans and they are Americans. They are keeping quiet about refugees, migrants, black people, racism. So my citizenship to be accepted against my humanity to be dignified. That's not us. That's not us. When people are saying, God bless America, you add, and Egypt. Well, I'm starting with this one. Guess why? And Africa, and Palestine, and all the world. No difference. God bless humanity. God bless us all. It's not us versus the other. And we don't have more dignity than the people who are dying in the Mediterranean Sea and the refugees that are flying out of Syria today. And we say, okay, we can't just welcome them all. At least we need to have these principles. What I'm saying here is don't take education for you as a way to be invisible in the United States of America. No, to be a contributing presence. You have to bring something in this country. When all the people are talking about America first, you speak about humanity first. When the people are saying us, you say us with the others. We are not differentiating. We need to get this, which is to promote these words of peace and to understand that our presence wherever we are should be a contributive and a contribution. Now, This is the dignity of human being, and in Islam, and this was from the very beginning, you find this with Ibn Kathir, why we have in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, our dignity is based on three things. First, our capacity to get knowledge. Second, our freedom. We are free. And third, because we are free, we are responsible. So knowledge to deal with our freedom in order to be accountable. This is the way we look at it, and education is about this. So when you take this conception, this philosophy of life as Muslims, now you translate this in the institution that we want. We want to be dignified human beings, getting the knowledge, dealing with freedom, and being responsible in our society. This is what we want. At the end of the day, we are not talking about degrees, we are not talking about titles, doctor, professor, we are talking about serving. Everything in our education is to get the knowledge in order to know how to deal with our freedom, in order to be responsible, because what is coming from the Quran is mukallafun. We have to respond to the call. Now, when I'm saying this, I think that from an Islamic perspective, we need to ask ourselves, okay, we know now what Islam is telling us, and this is the philosophy of life that we need. And I want to add to this something which is an ongoing process. As a Muslim, you have to educate your mind, and there is one dimension of yourself that you cannot neglect, is educating your heart. And educating your heart, it's really about checking something which is tajdeed al-niyyah. Tajdeed al-niyyah is everything that you are doing. For example, when you are going to pray, when you are going to fast, when you are coming to this mosque, when you are trying to be together, why are you doing what you are doing? As I said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. But you have to renew your intention and you, why are you doing what you are doing? Why are you educating yourself? Why are you trying to get this knowledge? This is the relationship between minds and heart. Now, the point that I wanted to make, we come now to translating all this in practical terms. Because all what I was talking about now is the understanding, the overall vision. How are we going to translate this? In a book which is absolutely not read by the Muslims, because some of the Muslims, they started reading it and say, oh, it's not really about Islam. Because some Muslims, they think that when you write a book, it has to have Islam in the title, talking about verses of the Quran, addressing Muslims for an Islamic audience among ourselves, and this is an Islamic book. The quest for meaning are saying that what we need today in our societies, and get me right, you are a majority Muslims here, but not only, what we need is 4 disciplines that are essential. 4 disciplines. Before even coming to the religious discussion, to the religious teaching, there is one. When you read the Quran is full of qasas al-Quran, talking about previous messengers and prophets. What is it? In fact, in the Quran, all the moral teachings are coming out of a sense of history. It happened before, and it's coming back to you. What you don't know very often about yourself is your own history. Muslims, and even Westerners, when you come to dealing with time, we don't study history. Many of you still think that there is something which is right when we put the West on the one hand and Islam on the other. And this is completely wrong. If you were to study your history, you will see how much the Muslim thinkers, philosophers, fuqaha even, have been influential in anything which has to do with the Western identity. And how much the Islamic tradition took from the Greek tradition and the other traditions. We have been in touch, it's not new. This West versus Islam is completely manufactured. Is a polarization which is in the perception, not in reality. if you want to be serious about knowledge, you need to get a sense of history. How much do you know about your history? How much do you know about, for example, in the last book that I wrote, Islam, the Essentials, it will be in the States in September. I'm saying that one of the main challenges of Muslims is them idealizing the past. And you know what we do with our past? The ulama were so great. They did it all. We are not able to do anything. We are powerless. So idealizing the past to justify our laziness in the present. Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. Anyway, that's what history. There is something also which is important, and we are, in fact, in Islam, we keep on repeating this, and when we are in a gathering with Jews and Christians and people of other faiths, we like to quote the verse from Surah Al-Hujurat, and we talk to them because we find it very nice. When it comes to وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ, and you know the verse. So we made you nations and tribes in order for you to know each other. And we are very often telling this to them because we are expecting them to know us. You have to know about Islam. But the verse is not saying this. لِتَعَارَفُوا, it's a two-way process. For them to know you and for you to know them. How much do you know about them? How much do you know? How much time you are in a society where you are facing pluralism, you want to be accepted? Did you take some time to learn about the people around you, just to listen to what they have to say? Instead of saying, I disagree with this, I disagree with that, I disagree with... Is this knowledge? Are you trying to understand the people around you? And to understand doesn't mean that you are going to convert, because this is the way we are. Say, come and listen about Islam and tell me after 2 weeks, are you going to convert? We are not here to convert people, by the way. We are here to be witnesses to the message of Islam. What is going to happen to people is between them and Allah. We have to be the best examples, not to try to convert the people. But the best example is the one who is also trying to get a better understanding of the people around. So that's something which is essential. We quote the verse for the people and not for ourselves. While the verse is talking about us as well, the knowledge. The third dimension which is important, which we have cut this in our tradition, is something that we find in everything which has to do with the first teaching of Islam. It's the understanding of the deep question of why we are here. What we call in Western tradition philosophy. What we have, for example, we are completely wrong if we think that the fuqaha have no philosophical minds. Of course they have. Ibn Taymiyyah wrote 9 volumes about the naql wal aql, which is revelation and rationality. He was the one saying we are in danger if we continue to accept the Greek philosophy. What was he saying? He said he's discussing thoughts, fiqh. So we need to reconcile ourselves with the deep understanding of why, the question why, not only how. Tell me how it's haram and how it's halal. No, but to understand the why. Why you are praying, why this life, and how you're going to deal. The deep question. If you don't do this, in the West you will have your sons and daughters, they will face these questions. And you know what? We have now some of our young brothers and sisters rejecting Islam because they don't find in the community people responding to why. They say, haram, iskut. You have to do this, you have to do that. So we put limits and no meaning. So I'm going to find all the limits, but I don't know why. And I go to the school and I got teachers dealing with the why and helping me to ask all the questions. Here you listen, there you question. And at the end, you know what? I prefer the question. Because I feel free. if you don't get this, if in our institutions we don't give this space, we don't address this issue, our education is completely rooted. It's not connected to the reality. And what we got from the Prophet ﷺ is that everything about education is contextual. It's contextual. All the means of education are contextual. You have to deal with your environment, so you have to know it. And there is something which is essential. Look at what we have now. I was with an imam this morning, and he told me something which is true. He said, in some Islamic settings, the beginning of arts and the end of arts is طَلَعُ الْبَدْرُ عَلَيْنَا. Beyond this, no arts. We keep on repeating, Allahu Jamil yuhibbul jamal. Allah is beautiful and He likes beauty. How are you going to deal with societies where entertainment, movies, arts is everywhere, and in our communities nowhere? We don't talk about that. How am I going to understand that the scholars were saying in Islam is two main things: ad-din wal-maslaha. Al-maslaha is the ethical public interest, maslahat al-nas. One of the things which is important is for me to feel good. Wherever I am in the United States of America, don't make me a Muslim feeling always bad, because I don't have anything that is helping me to feel good with the environment. To do this, you have to deal with art, you have to deal with imagination, you have to deal not only with the language, you have to deal with the whole environment. That's essential. Where are we in this discussion? We don't talk about this, because our understanding is the best protection is to know what is haram, while the best protection is to know what is halal, what is haram, and to feel good. But to know what is haram feeling bad at one. But if I know what is halal first, start with al-halal. It's aslu fil ashya' al-ibaha. Tell me the halal first. Then what is haram, and help me between the two to feel good. Not to feel guilty, not to feel bad, not to feel alien. And you keep on telling me, be an American, but haram. Not to be an American, but everything which is provided with this. So it's an idea. Sometimes Islamic schools. You see the difference? So schools for Muslims is gather the Muslims, protect them from the environment. And mainly start with women. As if the men were more protected. This would have been known, by the way. What we have today, in the great majority of the Western countries, is when you look at education, is that our sisters are more educated than men. And what we come to tell them now, we say to the sisters, you know what, you can only marry a Muslim brother. Okay, where are they? No, I'm serious. That's a very... The shuyukh can tell you, at one point when you have much more educated women than men, it's going to be a serious problem. A serious problem. We have this in many countries. In the UK where I have, you come with educated women say, okay, what do I have to do now? Because we have a problem here about the way we have to deal with the gender reality and the education. If we are not serious about men and women and the way we are promoting education, it's going to be unbalanced within the community. And you can't just keep on repeating, you have to find the right man, when we are still looking for where are the right men. So, the point here is to look at the reality and to try to face the reality. And I would say here that in our societies now, and what you are dealing, this is what I like the project that we were talking about, the Boston Seminary here, is we need leadership. We need leadership, and we need people They know how to deal with some of the issues, yes. How are we going to train the leaders? This is based on an understanding of the context, the situation here. Before coming to this, in the West, in the United States of America, there is one first dimension which is important when it comes to education. I traveled almost around all the European countries, came here so many times in the States, in Canada, in Australia. What is the main thing that I see within the community? Is it only a question of not getting the knowledge and not knowing what Islam is all about? It's not this the main problem that I'm facing, and I think that we are facing. There is something which has to do with psychology. We have a psychological problem. And the psychological problem is the way we deal with our tradition. We don't know our history, and we feel that we are not equipped to respond to the challenges of our time. So we are undermining our own selves. This psychological problem is also nurtured by the way that we put ourselves in the state of victims. So we are not able to do it, and the people don't like us. If you nurture this, you're not going to have the right education, because from the very beginning, you lost the battle before even starting to fight. Because you don't think that you are equipped. The psychological here things means you have in this community people who can do the job, and we need the institutions, and we are able to do this, and we need to understand the psychology within the society. And we need to understand the psychology within the community. We are communities where we have problems of internal communication. We don't communicate. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was in New York, and we have an African American Muslim saying, I'm here, but we are not communicating. In our communities, there are divisions. So we speak about unity, but we are experiencing divisions. We don't. And the divisions are between trends, schools of thoughts. They are between schools of madahib, schools of law, and they are between cultures and colors and social status. If you want to be serious about this, you have to address the issue. There will be no unity within the Muslim community if the institutions are not addressing the problem of internal discussion, internal and accepted diversity. And to accept diversity is not to be sitting in this room here today and to say, oh yes, I'm open-minded, I'm ready to talk with all the trends and to keep talking to your people. This is something which is important in our education. In anything which is coming from Islamic institution in the West, we need to take diversity seriously and to teach about it, and to teach about the trends, and to teach about how we are going to deal with this. The leadership about this diversity is important. I have been, rejected. I have been, for example, dealing, and I kept on repeating, I completely disagree with anyone who is supporting Bashar al-Assad in Syria. But I will never accept that my political disagreement with people who are supporting Assad ends up by saying, you are Shi'i, you are no longer a Muslim. The political divergence should not end up being a religious rejection. This is exactly what they are trying to do with us in the Middle East, to put one against the other. And we are falling into the trap. If we are not equipped to say, no, our diversity is our strength, and we are not going to accept to be divided, at least say it. I disagree with you politically speaking, even here. You might be supporting Clinton or Trump or Bernie Sanders, but at the end, let's be clear that our strength is this unity with our faith, accepting diversity from and through our minds and our understanding of the reality. This is also where the education is very important when it comes to the context and when it comes to what we have to do. And this is the first dimension. The second dimension when it comes to education and what we have to do is, as with our institutions, we need to deal with something which is the diversity within the community and the psychology within the community. We have to deal with the psychology. And some of the leaders, and I was very happy when I heard about imams involved in 3 different fields. One are going to deal with the religious affairs, other with the social problems within the community, and others with reaching out. So it's also specializing the leadership by people understanding how I'm going to deal with social affairs, how I'm going to deal with the surrounding society, and how I'm going to lead religiously this community. To have different types of iman and different types of leadership. That's very important. We need institutions doing the job. But what I would say here is that adding to the psychology is something which we need with our institution, is to get the understanding of the complexity of the world. In the work that I'm trying to do now, when you deal with different fields, when it comes, for example, to applied ethics in medicine, on Monday we have a seminar on genomics. Genomics has to do with the new field, the DNA, and what we can get from things that were unknown before, and that we can know about your personality, know about your constitution, and this is a field which is very complex. Today, Muslims are not responding to these questions, or very superficially. The only field within which we are being involved is medicine, but when it comes to environment, when it comes to economics, when it comes to arts, for example, when it comes to bioethics and medical ethics, we are not there. We need to have some institutions, and we need to have teaching helping us to get the complexity of the world and to be able to respond in ethical terms. What is the Islamic answer to some of the questions that we are facing now? Where are we when it comes to environment? Where are we when it comes to medical ethics, for example, applied ethics? Institution today should also be able to educate leaders to come with a deeper understanding of the complexity of the world. We cannot remain simplistic Muslims. Islam is a simple message, but it gives us the principles to deal with the complexity of the world. So we need to deal with the psychology of the people, and we need to deal with the complexity of the world. Institutions in the West should be at that level. We need to have Islamic institutions dealing with this type of education, being equipped to be spiritually consistent and confident and intellectually committed to deal with the complexity of the world. And our education in the West should have, so the first one is psychology, the second one is complexity. The third notion that I want to add in anything which has to do with our education is empathy. What is the main message of Islam? Allahu la ilaha illahu. وَلَقَدْ قَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, the dignity of all human beings. And he said, Ya ayyuhan nas, O you people. What we need to get coming in this country is that we are not here, Muslims or American Muslims, only to save the Muslims. We need to get this intellectual empathy and this human solidarity. We are here as a mercy for the people. Inna arsalnaka rahmatan lil alamin. You are a mercy. Our institutions are to equip and to help us to serve all of them with no difference. No difference. It's not, I'm trying to get the knowledge only to serve the Muslim. No, we are serving this society. What I said at the beginning is important. The way we look at our institutions should not be to serve only our people. So, for example, this institution, if it's useful, it should change the neighborhood. The people around should feel that there is something happening in this institution which is an added value to Boston. So our educational institutions should be for us, from us, to everybody. Everybody, as a mercy, as a contribution, as a gift. Can I ask you something? Ask yourself, just for 30 seconds. Wherever you live, your neighbor, when he is a Muslim or when he or she is a Christian and a Jew, or an atheist, an agnostic, a Hindu, do they have a sense that your presence is a contribution, is a gift in the neighborhood? Do you want them to understand that you are not a problem? Or do you want them to understand that you are a gift? It's completely different. If you want them to feel that you are not a problem, you are on the defensive. If you want them to understand that you are a gift, you are confident, you give. The first you protect, the second you give. And you know what? You are here to give. So I can come to you and say, okay, what did you give today? Were you a gift today? Are the people around you seeing that the way you educate yourself is to give to humanity? We are here to serve humanity. خيركم أنفعكم للناس. The best among you is the more useful for humanity, for all the people. Our education should has to do with this. So when I come here and I heard about, a seminary, what we are trying to do, it's much more important than only serving the Muslims. The best way to serve the Muslims is to serve the people around the Muslims. It will come back to the Muslims. Serve them, you serve yourself. But if you serve yourself, you might be alone one day. And be isolated. Our institutions have and should have this objective as something which is essential in the way. And this is called empathy. Please, don't look at the Americans and don't be judgmental. Some of them, they had no religious education. Some of them, they don't even know about themselves. Some of them, they don't know about religion. Don't look at the people and repeat, you are ignorant. You don't insult the ignorant by saying you are ignorant. The best way to serve the ignorant is to teach him. It's not to say you are an ignorant. Because even if he knows that you think he's an ignorant, at the end, the equation is one ignorant and one insulting the ignorant. It's not going to make a society. Serve the people. Serve the people around you. And know that their ignorance is the way for you to teach, to be a teacher, to be a gift, and to teach something. Our institutions should be at that level of understanding what is religious education in the way we serve. There is a last thing that I wanted to say coming from out our education is there is no education in Islam if you don't get first the sense of psychology, the sense of the which is coming from the Prophet ﷺ, which is to be educated is to show some courage, intellectual courage. And intellectual courage is not just to fight back. Intellectual courage is when you believe what you believe, be proud of what you believe. That's courage. It's just, I believe in this. This is me. I believe in that. So how are we going to teach in our institution the fact that you believe in this? This is you. Be proud of this. Make something out of it. So this is not easy. It's also, in order to be proud of what I believe, you have to know how to express what you believe. Because if you believe in something and you don't know how to say it, you're not going to be proud for a long time. Anyone can come and destroy what you believe in. You need to know how to express. You need to be equipped. So this sense of courage means to get the means of expression, the means of your courage. And it's also to understand that the courage is also to face. Sometimes, when all the people are saying something, you should be courageous enough to say, I might disagree. It's coming in our family. The Quran is telling us it could happen with your parents. If your parents are telling you something which is wrong, you have to have the courage to say, I don't agree. You respect them, but I don't agree. وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. Yes, I am going to serve you, but وَإِنْ جَاهَدَكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِهِ مَا لَيْسَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ لَا تُطِعْهُمَا. So you have the courage to say, I'm not going to obey you against what Allah is asking me. لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. I'm not going to do that. So I have the courage to face and to say no, and at the same time to serve my parents. What does it mean? It means that I need to have courage at home. I need to have courage within the society, and especially now, the populists are dealing with emotional politics. You have to be reasonable and to be able to say, no, how are you going to say this? How are we going to teach this to our children, to our students, to our leaders? It takes some courage, and it's part of our education. So when I'm talking about this intellectual courage also, it's to be able to be resisting some of the main narratives that we have within our society. I am not happy to say that so many Muslims today are very far from everything which has to do with social resistance in this country. Many people in this room might be very proud of Malcolm X. They say he was great. But why was he great? Because he was supporting the very struggle for justice and equality in this country. And he was right on many ways when it came to promote the black resistance by saying we need to have the same rights. And we look at Black Lives Matter and we ask ourselves, do we have to be involved, and in which we are going to be involved as soon as there is injustice? This is the way I'm going to be strong with the rules, if I understand what you are telling me. Don't tell me how to pray, teach me why I pray. And give me the very meaning of the religious principles, the very meaning of Tawheed, the very meaning of Al-Aqidah, the 6 pillars of faith. We need to, especially in the West, there is a struggle for teaching the meanings of our rules and the meanings of our principles. This is what we have to do. And how are we going to do this? How am I going to teach you the meaning of the rules, the meaning of your principles, in understanding the context within which you are going to try to implement them? So no education in the United States without bringing into our education the American context. And the American context is 3 things. First is the language. We have to be very serious with the language. Now we have to recapture the translation of our terminology. There is a colonization of our terminology. You have people dealing with Sharia and destroying the very meaning of Sharia in this country. Everything which has to do with Sharia bill is to destroy the word. Jihad is destroyed. Khilafah is destroyed. And we are not able from within to come and to say, all this is wrong. We are reclaiming our terminology. And if anybody is telling you, remove jihad, remove Sharia, I say, never. I'm going to give the right definition, the right understanding, and the right understandings, because sometimes they have many meanings. But this is a struggle. In our education, if we want to be serious about educating and having the right Islamic education, religious education, it starts with the terminology. It starts with the language. How are you going? In the last book, I took it's important and culture is important. Any Islamic institution providing people with religious knowledge should have this in mind. This is what we have to do. This is what we have to keep. This is one. The second thing which is important when it comes to our education and our institution, when it comes from the religious, is the knowledge of the context. And I kept on repeating for 30 years, there are ulama in nusus, scholars of the text, but they are scholars of the context. Ulama al-waqi', al-siyaq. And you, in this society, you know your society. You know what is happening. So at one point, in different level, we need to have the knowledge of the context. How are we going to deal with our fellow citizens in the United States of America? How are we going to address the social problem, how you're going to address the security problem, how are you going to populism in this country. We need to have institutions and leaders being able to understand how it works. This is why, for example, help us to get a better understanding of an American culture, not to come with us. While the Americans are starting on time, we start late, and then you come like us, we start late. And at the end, we are, this is the reality of it. We are changing. We are not taking advantage of people, bringing to the community knowledge that we didn't have. And sometimes requirement and way of dealing with things we don't have. We are not listening to the culture. And we think, listen to the religious and don't listen to the culture. That's wrong. We need to listen to the culture, to the point that the Prophet ﷺ, when he was in Medina, he was listening to what the taste and what the Ansar they liked in the way they were dealing with even music. Even music, in the way they were dealing with women, was different from Mecca. He was listening to the cultural dimension. Keeping the principles means take and pay attention to the cultural dimension. So this is what we have to do when it comes to education. And there is one last point that I wanted to add here. And we had this discussion. You know, in academic setting, in our schools, there is a sense now that if you want to be serious about knowledge, deal with rationality and forget about religion. Religion is not really serious. Theology is what you believe. Science is what you know. And religion is what you believe in. And we have to come, and this is our contribution today in the West. If we have something to give, is to show how serious we are with the religious. The religious is not only what we believe in, but what we know, what we study. It's about science, it's about rigor, it's about commitment, it's about seriousness. We have to be serious with this. We have to be serious about that. So what we need is also institutions, and I hope that the Boston Seminary will be at that level, the highest level. For example, in my field, in ethics, for example, I have students, I want them to be peer-reviewed. You write an essay, and we are going to send it to see if you have the level. You don't have the level, do it again. But it's not because you come to me and say, Salamu alaikum, I'm a Muslim, you are a Muslim, so... You want me to give you a PhD like that? Salamu alaikum? Come sit down and do the job. The highest level. Now you write. It's not good, you write it again. Because I am your brother, I'm going to add to the academic requirement, the requirement of my brotherhood. I'm not selling. And you know, this was the way we were taught. My teacher, Al-Aqabawi, Sheikh Al-Aqabawi, he was 83. Before he gave me the ijazah, once I arrived, the second lesson, I arrived 10 minutes late in Egypt. In Egypt is nothing. 10 minutes is nothing. The Sheikh Al-Aqabawi said, okay, go back home, come tomorrow. The second class, I can tell you, after this, I became Swiss in Egypt, on time. This is exactly what changed my mind after the second class. It's a one-to-one. You come 10 minutes late, there is no class. Go back home. And back home in Egypt was on the other side of the Medina. It took me 1.5 hours to go back. I said, for 10 minutes. 10 minutes in Egypt. يعني معلش يعني اللي حصل. And he was 83. And now we have our students coming to us in our university, even in Oxford. I can tell you, some of the Muslims who are students there, they think because you are Muslim and you are like them, we'll find a way. No way. No way. And I want our institutions to be at the highest level, to come back to our tradition. Because this is not alien to our tradition. When you have in the Quran, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا, it means time is time. After Fajr is no Fajr. So if you want to get the level, and to get the level, the intellectual commitment, you have to do it. And you know what? You might not have the degree, but this is between you and Allah. It's not between you and me. My brotherhood is not to be something that you can buy and sell. This is why we need to have now our institutions. We have to be committed with time, committed with the substance, committed with everything which is part of our Islamic education. And you know what? If we do this, this is our contribution. This is why the people are going to respect us. And by doing this, let the people be free to ask you all the questions that they want. If you are confident with your tradition, don't be scared of their questions. Take their questions as a way to invite you to think, not as a way they insult you. This is because we are too emotional. Anything which is a question about Islam, oh, you don't like Muslims, Islamophobe. I have a question. I have a question. Answer my question. Our confidence should be a way for the people to say, okay, come, ask the question. I just met people that I can tell you just today, I met people, Jewish people today. I was coming here to talk. And they got people telling them, there is somebody coming to talk to the mosque. He's Tariq Ramadan, and what he's saying about the Jews and even Israel is not clear. And they are dealing with the mosque, and they are trying to have a dialogue. And they did something that you should get it as something which is very respectful, very dignified. They called the people to say, we heard that you are inviting Tariq Ramadan. Can we meet with him? Just we need to understand where he stands. Look at that. They are asking to have a meeting, just to have a talk and to try to get an understanding of what I'm saying. And when they did this, straight away when I was asked, are you ready to meet with them? I said, yes. Why? Because when the people are calling you and asking you and they have questions, if you want to get trust, let them ask the question and respond to the question. Be sincere in your answer and let them be sincere in their questions. Because if you are not sincere in your answer, you are not helping them to be sincere with their questions. And if you want trust, this is the way it is. And I'm so used to people talking behind your back. Others are doing. So before coming here, to have people from another religion having questions and you open the floor, that's the way it should be. And we have to do exactly the same with the people. We have questions and we go. This is out of trust. The American context should help us to have this open space where we let the people ask and we try to answer. And the more we let the people ask, the more we get the questions, the more we deepen our understanding of our own religion, because we are able to respond. So may Allah help us, inshallah, and help all of us to respond to this and to be able to understand the very meaning of education. Get me right. It's a very important project. It's a very important thing. We need to think about our education. And when I see an institution trying to get a seminary, trying to get something which is necessary for us in the States and to try to work on this, I would be the first. So we decided, this is a decision that was taken just before we started this lecture, that we are going to collaborate in the coming future. We even have training programs here connecting Oxford with the Center for Islamic Legislation and Ethics, with the Boston Seminary, coming and working at that level. But it has to be serious. It has to be at the highest level. It has to be contextualized. It has to be faithful to the principles. Any one of you who heard once that Tariq Ramadan wants to reform Islam, you don't get it. I don't want to reform Islam because Islam doesn't need reform. We need to reform the Muslim minds. You. My problem is not Islam, it's the Muslims. Muslims in their mind. All what we are trying to do is how to reform the way we understand Islam. I know that haram for me, Habiba. So I think that this is where, and any one of you, if you go on the website, if you go on Facebook, if you go and there is a training that we have mid-May, and this is what I was saying, if we have people coming from here, we can use them and they can be the link between the center here and our institution to try to start the work here. We need to have people committed. Whatever is your field, in arts, in medicine, in psychology, in whatever, we are working on the maqasid, and we need to have people trained with us, coming here, working in this project, and we create a school of thought. You know, you have to be very humble. Very humble is saying, I'm doing what I can, and atawakkalu ala Allah, but we have to be ambitious. Humble and ambitious at the same time. Ambitious means we are going to make it. It's possible. We want to do it. Now you are talking. 10 years ago, this was a dream and this is now a reality. Now, 10 years from now, we need to have an institution at the highest level of academic requirements and dealing and being connected to other institutions. One of them will be ours, inshallah. But we need to have the people. And we cannot just rely on 5 people doing all the job. Where are the students? Where are the people who are ready to be involved in this? Inshallah, this is your responsibility, and this will be the way we are building the future together. Wallahu a'lam wa a'la wa ahkam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So I know the time is running much later than we had planned, so we're going to curtail the Q&A, but Brother Hassan has a request for all of you.
Jazakumullah khair. We were going to take some QA, but as you see, it's a little bit late, so we will not do that tonight. However, we would love for you to get a chance to contribute to the Boston Islamic Seminary. Please support us with your donations. You have pledge forms that are there. We have pledges tonight for about 50,000. We'd like to get this a little bit higher up, so please use that opportunity to donate. And can we use the cell number, Salma, also? And there is a cell number that you can simply send your name and pledge amount to it, and we will communicate with you. The number, if you can write it down, it's 617-858-1505. 617-858-1505. We're very grateful to Dr. Tariq Ramadan to coming here at the ISBCC with the Boston Islamic Seminary, and inshallah there is going to be a lot of good news about the close partnership that we are about to develop with Dr. Ramadan to bring him here and bring his knowledge here to Boston through the Boston Islamic Seminary. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.